Yo ho ho, so today I'm going to be doing a book review on The End of Alice by A.M. Holmes. So let me tell you what this is about. So from the confinement of his prison cell, the narrator, only known as Chappie, lives vicariously through the letters of a 19-year-old female paedophile. He's now serving his 23rd year of imprisonment, and he tells her story through his own words, with occasionally giving you a glimpse into his own story. So from the very first page, Chappie presents himself as a bit of a showman. He definitely has a persona going on, and he wants to present the 19-year-old story in his own words because he doesn't trust us to read the letters ourselves. It's as if he thinks he can make them more entertaining. So I lost a bit of interest in the 19-year-old story because I didn't know what was real and what wasn't real, and we can probably agree that a good amount of it is fictionalized because Chappie's just trying to make it more entertaining for us, if that's what he regards as entertaining. So Chappie definitely does have a persona that he's trying to put on for us to keep us entertained and engaged in the story, but at certain times he lets this slip. So he tries to come off his best as a well-educated man, and at times it seemed that he reminded me of Humbert Humbert from Lolita. The way he would describe a young girl's breast would be as a blossoming bosom. And then other times he'd let this persona slip and just be straight up titties. So I think it was really well done, and it definitely made it feel a lot more creepy, and A.M. Holmes definitely had a few tricks up her sleeves with her writing style, and that actually really impressed me. Another aspect of A.M. Holmes' writing that I actually really enjoyed, which may be something that might get on some people's nerves, was the fact that she had Chappie repeat himself about 3 or 4 times throughout the novel in a sort of a flashback, doddering way. So Chappie would be recounting an incident from his past, and at a certain point it cuts off before anything interesting happens. And then later on in the novel he'll repeat himself entirely again, but with the addition of what happened next. Like, it was always leading somewhere. So when I started noticing that he was repeating himself, I didn't think that it was because the author was trying to get the page count up or anything like that. It definitely served a purpose, and it also served a purpose of just reminding the reader of the story so far. And I think that was a really good tactic to do, to show that his mind isn't really what it used to be. So when Alice is introduced, we're more than 2/3 into the story, and that's the point where it got interesting for me personally. And even reading the 19-year-old stuff, like I said, I wasn't interested in it, and even Chappie complains throughout the novel how boring the 19-year-old is, and if he was her he'd be making all these kinds of different decisions and just sort of giving out about her and her naivety and things like that. But Alice was very interesting, and her character is probably the most interesting character in the novel aside from Chappie himself. The fact that she's a child who thinks she's much older than she is. She's obviously a child who has hung around adults most of her life. And she even has Lady Lazarus by Sylvia Plath written on her shoes, and she's just very worldly, but she is still very much a child, and there's plenty of things she doesn't know. And I think Chappie doesn't really realise this until it's too late, because she does such a good job at pretending she's much more mature than she actually is. So going into the novel, I didn't realise how much it was actually going to affect me. Like I said, I found it incredibly difficult to read. There's some really graphic descriptions of sex acts, and within the first 50 pages, I think most people would probably DNF it because it gets going quite quickly, and you don't really know if it's the author doing it for shock value or if she's doing it just to present a brutally honest depiction of like what prison life is like. And it's genuinely really disturbing, and like the last disturbing book that I read would probably be The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum, and this might take the biscuit on that because it really bothered me. I had a really hard time actually getting through it and getting the motivation to pick it up, and like I said, it wasn't until the introduction of Alice that I got more invested in the story, because I was interested in Chappie's story and not some random 19-year-old, and I feel like most of the story was taken up by that. And it was always far more interesting when Chappie would actually divulge his own personal life story, but then it would abruptly end only to go back and recount it at the end. So it is a little bit frustrating at times, I think. But regardless of how a book makes me feel, if a book can make me feel something, I regard that as a good thing. This book provoked a lot of questions for me, like, should I have felt sorry for Chappie at all? Were the things that happened to him as a child things that shaped him for life, and that's why he got into the situation that he did? I don't know. And I was really taken back by the ending. I was really taken back. I really wasn't expecting that. I didn't realize that the novel was building to an ultimate climax, because it seems to like build up to something horrible happens, and then it goes back to normality for a little while. At a point where you think it can't get any worse, it actually does. I also thought it was interesting how Chappie would let slip his persona at times, not intentionally, but then accidentally letting us know information about him that could change our mind about him. Like, for example, the fact that he gets his sexual gratification from asserting his dominance over someone. I don't think that's something that he wanted to show, but he actually did. You know, for me, that had to have been the reason as to why he did the things that he did in this novel. But yeah, I came away with it with a lot of questions, and it's probably going to be something that I'm going to be thinking about for a while, even though I would really rather get this book out of my head as soon as possible. So overall, I definitely don't think that this is a book for everyone. I think you have to have a very specific taste, and you have to be very mentally prepared to know what you're going to be dealing with when you go into this, because I'm someone who had no clue. I just knew that it had been recommended to me throughout the years, and I thought, you know, why not? It always pops up in my recommendations. I might as well try it. And unfortunately, I subjected a lot of other people to reading it too along with me. But that said, I don't think it's a bad book. I think it was written really well. There was a lot of thought put into the characters, but it definitely didn't hit all the points that would have made it a 5-star book for me. I ended up rating it maybe about 3 stars, I think. A.M. Homes definitely is a solid, talented writer. I really enjoyed the structure of the book. I may not have enjoyed the main story overall, but I thought there was a lot of really strong moments with the writing. Ultimately, it caught me off guard in the end, and I think that was very positive as well, because a lot of the time I'm sitting there and I know the ending before it happens. So to actually have been surprised by what happened, I think that was a bonus as well. But I definitely don't think that this is a book for everyone. Like I said, I think most people would probably DNF it in the first 50 pages. I would only recommend it for someone who has a taste for reading disturbing books, and if you like challenging yourself in that way, because if not, this would probably be regarded as torture porn by most people. And I think you should definitely be aware that it is difficult and it is incredibly graphic before you actually start reading it. So that has been my review for The End of Alice. I have so many thoughts on it, and I know I've probably left out a huge chunk of them, but hopefully it will give you an insight as to what the book is about. It is, like I said, incredibly disturbing. It might be one of the most disturbing books I've ever read, but if you're into that kind of thing, I would definitely recommend it. If not, stay well away from it. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.